Hiya. Feeling exhilarated, just had a cold shower. Bloody Wim Hof. Today's videos about emotional triggers. This is going to be a little bit blended in with emotional processing as well. You know, just like how to interact with your emotions, how to experience your emotions in such a way that it's just going to continue to help you throughout your life. I'll go into that now. So the way that I like to, I'm going to start off with like a metaphor that's going to make it nice and easy to grasp what it is I'm talking about, and then we'll go into the more trigger side of it. But the emotional system in general, if you want to look at it in a nice easy way, here's a metaphor. Imagine like a bucket, right? And the bucket is full of emotion. Imagine the bucket has a lid on it, and when the bucket gets fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller, and it reaches the lid, but it continues to get full, obviously it becomes a bit more pressurized. Okay, and then when it gets so pressurized, it blows its top. The lid blows off, and all the emotion comes flying out. So imagine that. Imagine your body is that, right? And you're filling up with the emotion. When we have a consistent emotion that we're suppressing, it might be sadness, it might be anger or guilt or something like that, right? Fear. It also good stuff, you know, excitement, playfulness, all that sort of stuff as well. That can all like build up and get suppressed. Imagine like, you know, when you're a kid and you're not allowed to prat around and play around, and you get told off at school when you're laughing and stuff like that, you know, it is. That can also get like buried. And then obviously you go have a purge, you might go out and have a few drinks or whatever, and you're like, you know, like a kid when they get in somewhere big, like a gym, like a gymnasium type thing, or a supermarket, somewhere that's big and spacious, or a field, a park, and they start wanting to just run around and slide across the floor on the knees and stuff. It's because they've been suppressing the excitement. But the same goes for like rage, you know, like anger becomes rage, and other sensations and feelings like guilt and that, and can all pop. Right, you suppress it, keeps pounding, pops. The more of that we've been holding on to in the body, the more our body believes that we need that emotion. So then what happens is your thoughts begin to loop on on thoughts that resonate with that stifled emotion. So your thoughts then become controlled. They actually become controlled by your biological system, so that they release a chemical that then feeds the cells that relate to the emotion that you've suppressed. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about the science behind it. I don't really want to go into that now because I want to keep these short enough and not overload with information, but give you enough that you can look into it and you know, see the truth in what I'm saying, and then sort of take it from there, of your own volition. I want to plant some seeds and give some techniques, and some very usable and definite techniques. And I mentioned in another video that I just want to give enough buy-in that you at least look into it, or if you have a little bit more faith and this video gets the point across enough that you'll just go, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and at least try it out, at least use it for a month and see where I'm at with it. Now, this does make a difference. This is one of the most powerful changes I've ever made in my life, and it's a permanent one, and it changes the way that you interact with yourself, your body, your emotions, your thoughts, and life itself, and other people. It's a big one. So imagine, right, you've got this bucket, this storage of emotions. You're thinking the thoughts, right? You don't really get a choice in that for a lot of the time, because your body is making it happen to release the chemical to feed this emotion. So let's say you keep having thoughts that make you angry, like resentment, and you're stewing on something, you're stewing on it. for every time you have this thought, what's happening is you're pouring more into the top of the bucket. You're filling it up and filling it up. Now, bear in mind, it might already be pressurized. And then you blow your top, you have a fit of rage, and you break something, and you hurt someone, and you upset yourself, and you hurt yourself, or whatever, and you cause damage, destruction, drama in your life. What happens is, during that period, you're only unleashing enough so that the pressure is reduced enough that the lid can go back on, but it's still full. You're not emptying it when you do that. You're only releasing a bit of the pressure. And this is where most people are, or a lot of people are. And you can see it, we're full. We're full up to the brim, and we're just waiting for something to trigger us, whether it be the news or a person, or, our partner, our relationship, or our work itself, or, something that's going on in the world. So you see this, don't you? In all areas of life, you can see people being emotionally triggered. But I'm not getting angry, getting defensive. Right? Defensive is a very key emotional, a key symptom of emotional triggers. Getting defensive, getting angry, getting triggered by it, getting volatile, being sort of unpredictable with your behaviour. It's like when you're full. So many people. You get to recognize this more as well when you do this sort of work. You can see it in people by the postures and the way they breathe, which when we're going to more breathwork stuff, it's going to be really useful for you to understand that. You can tell where someone's at emotionally and spiritually, etc., just by the way they breathe, by how the body moves as they breathe. And we'll go more into that later. So the key is, when you are going through this emotional experience, you can feel the emotions coming up, right? You put time aside, do this whenever. Do it when you're in a queue, do it when you're cooking, do it when you're relaxing, if you're watching TV, if you're listening to music, if you're walking the streets, if you're laid in bed in the morning, on an evening. You can do this so easily, as often as you want, and the only thing stopping you doing it really would be fear, or that you forget. And sometimes you'll forget because you're scared, and so your body makes it, your brain will kind of have you forget. Feel. It's that simple. Feel. Instead of thinking, oh, that person really wound me up, I'm so annoyed about that. Oh, this thing, I can't work, I don't have any money, blah, 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 noise, right? Loads of mental noise, ticking over, filling that pressurized container with all this stuff. When you just feel it, and I'm going to go into more detail in a sec about feeling it, but when you feel it, what you're effectively doing is you're putting a hole in the bottom of that bucket, and it's draining out. All right, and then the more you drain it, the more you feel it, that emotion starts to go down, the pressure's gone. Then, now, don't be deceived that when the pressure's gone, you go, oh, that worked, I'm good now, don't need to do that anymore. This is a way of life. You start to feel instead of thinking, start to be very aware of how your body feels inside. Because it's dead standard. You go, yeah, it worked, I'm done, and then before you know it, you've stopped doing it. But it fills back up. Oh, that thing didn't work. I tried it and it didn't work. I'm back to where I was. This is a way of life. This is not a technique to try once or twice. So you feel it, drain it. First, the pressure's gone. Then you just keep doing it, and there'll be less frequent and fewer and further between, bigger gaps between these emotional triggers or surges of emotion as it comes up. Feel. There's a saying, feel it to heal it, because it rhymes, but easy to remember. Feel it to heal it. Drain it, and eventually you'll drain it all the way down. This is what we call emotional freedom. Now, mindfulness you'll have heard of before, no doubt. It's a way of life, but it's also like a meditation. It's a key aspect of yoga and Zen Buddhism, and you can look at all over, but there is science in it as well, which, like I say, the Joe Dispenza and his guys talk about the science behind it. A couple of their books I'll share now: Becoming Supernatural, Joe Dispenza, and Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He talks about that as well. There's a couple of good sources, or you might be able to find them on YouTube. What we want to do is we want to drain that tank, so that, because like when that tank's full, right, we are not acting authentically from a place of truth and peace. We're acting from an old program, and like an emotional program, a trigger, and we do things that are so out of character and that are not helpful, not useful for us. They can be destructive and certainly can be not constructive, you know. And it can cause mania, you know, and get really manic. And like I'm kind of prone to a little bit of mania myself from time to time with suppressed, what's come up is a lot with suppressed sort of fun, excitement, like spilling over with love and passion, and not living in a world where it's okay to love people and squeeze people and cuddle them and be really sort of, you know, passionate in life. And sometimes I guess that was me as a kid, being shut down at school and potentially maybe at home from time to time, like if, you know, my parents were watching TV and I was wanting to make noise and play up and run around, you know. But really it was just like the high energy wanting to express. I'm getting way better at that now, and like as I feel through that, it becomes easier and easier and easier to do that and to be that way. Let me just recap. I'm an ace at going off on tangents, right? I get excited. I'm really excited at the moment because of this project that's going on at the moment. Feel it to heal it. Feel anything that comes up. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's good or bad, they're just labels, right? They're sensations. You don't need to call it anger, jealousy, or, you know, rage, or sadness, or grief, or shame, or whatever, fear, or joy, or bliss, or excitement, or anxiety. You don't need to give it those labels. This is really kind of crucial, to not give it those labels, and step out of the label and go into the feeling. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about how to do it. The bigger picture is feel it, drain it, always. Now the how to, the more specific details on how to do this effectively and to speed up the process, I guess, by doing it a little bit more consciously than just going, all right, yeah, I can feel something, and give you a bit more specifics for you. Anyone who knows anything about sort of hypnosis side of things, NLP, might have heard a similar technique. But I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything with it. So in NLP, you're asked to find the sensation and then to change it. Now, where I'm coming from is a little bit different. That is a technique you can do, is to find the emotion and then change it in some way. But what we want to do is create the deep, visceral sort of awareness, kind of acceptance within the body of all feelings. What we don't want is like, so let's say you feel anxiety, right? Some people hate it when people do that, don't they? I don't care. So like an anxiety, the reason I do that is because we want to remove the labels, but I'm going to talk to and hopefully meet people where they're at right now. So let's say you have anxiety, right? Those feelings, those palpitations, the churning in the stomach, the nervous energy, right? What we can do is we just feel where that is. So what we're going to do is we're going to hone in on it. We're not going to go, oh, I feel anxious. We're going to go, okay, where do I feel these feelings that I've been calling anxiety? Where exactly are they? And we're going to find where they live in the body, sink into it. Where is it? You might find it goes shoulder to chest in a kind of upside down triangle. It might be completely different. I don't want to put this into your head. This is just totally made up. But let's say it's in that shape and you go, oh, it's kind of a triangle. How deep does it go? Is it front to back? Is it just at the front? Is it just at the back? But let's really trace where it is with our awareness. Feel it. Oh yeah, there it is. Is it textured? Is it thick? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it shifting? You know, is it like mist? Is it like a heavy brick? Where is it? What does it feel like? What's the texture? Is it fluffy? Is it spiky? Does it have a colour? Does it feel colourful? Does it feel like red or black, or, you know, dark navy, or, you know, what does it feel like? Now in NLP, what people would tell you Generally, and what NLP teaches is take it, change its shape, make it smaller, change its texture, change its movement. That's another thing as well. Is it moving? Is it going up and down, side to side? Is it spinning? Is it undulating or whatever? What is it doing? The reason I don't want to change it is these feelings represent a part of us, and this what I really want to drive home for people to make this really lifelong healing, rather than having to manage it over and over again, is to make it okay in your body for the rest of your life for any sensations whatsoever to be there, because each sensation represents a part of you, and as long as you're rejecting that sensation, you're rejecting a part of yourself, and then you feel a void in your life. And when you feel a void in your life, you want to fill it elsewhere: food, sex, drugs, booze, money, success, whatever it is, drama. You try to fill this void one way or another, and it can manifest in loads of different ways, and a lot of them might be they might not be good for you, might not be productive. So we want to feel whole, and the way we feel whole is by rejecting nothing. And the way we reject nothing is to allow all sensations within the body to be okay there. And ironically, and when you allow them to be there as they are, that's when they disappear. Or when they no longer have a negative effect on you, because there is no resistance. Just realised this mic's not plugged in. I'm going to plug it in now. I'm not going to start the video again. There'll be a little bit of a shift in sound quality anyway. So what we want to do is make all feelings okay, all emotions okay in the body. So imagine you have this thing that you used to call anxiety. Suddenly now it's this triangle thing that does that, and it shakes a little bit, it vibrates, it goes front to back, it kind of feels like it's dark red, and it's vibrating and it's moving maybe backwards and forwards. The reason we do that is the time that it takes you to feel it, to decide the shape and the texture, the time that it's taking you to do that, you're feeling it, you're having to feel it to do that work. Now, that feeling of that sensation in your body is the equivalent of, imagine this, right? And you're in a child. There's a little you inside where when that emotional trigger was installed, you never recovered. So you might have got shot down by your parents in public, maybe after school in the playground, you got shouted at for whatever reason and you were publicly shamed. Or you might have been at a party and you might have been playing and having loads of fun and shut down, told off. You kind of, that part of you, that aspect of you gets kind of frozen in time. So then for the rest of your life, if somebody tries to embarrass you in public, this thing comes up, right? And so what we're effectively dealing with when this emotional trigger comes up is a wounded child. It's a child that's sad, that's hurting, that's scared, that's upset. So what we want to do is we want to treat that emotion the same way you would a child. For the best. So rather than thinking about how you want to treat your child or a child, I want you to switch that in on yourself. How did you want to be treated? This is vital, because you might say, well, I'll just teach that kid to behave. But when you were a kid, did you want to be changed, or did you want to be loved exactly as you were? Big question. This is really powerful stuff for parents. If you're a parent, I hope you're digesting this. When you were a kid, how did you want to be treated? The discipline inside of it and the sharing to make a child good, right? Safe and accepted by society in such a way that they're not going to be harmed, they're not going to come to harm and be attacked by anyone, I guess is a more valid way of looking at it. We want to treat this sensation like the kid, right? What we don't want to do is go, don't want you. Every time we suppress that, it's like putting your hand over the face of a little child who's crying and reaching up and just pushing him away. Like you wouldn't have wanted that as a kid. And that emotion, that feeling, that sensation is you as a kid. And every time you stifle it and push it away, that's what you're doing to that part of yourself. Can you imagine? why that's going to cause pain in your life, and why this kid's going to keep coming up, this emotion's going to keep coming up, like holding its arms up saying, please, I just want you to love me, I just want love, I want acceptance, I don't want to be chastised anymore, I don't want to be abandoned and neglected, I feel like I'm scared, I feel alone, I feel out in the cold, I feel abandoned and rejected, and all the things that we don't want, right? So for every time you feel that feeling, just imagine that little kid reaching up, wanting love. The way that you give it love is to first hear it, right? So everyone will have had an experience of being ignored by the parents, ignored by somebody else. It can be really infuriating, right? That's what that comes from, like being a kid and being ignored, and it's stuck. So the first thing we do, we feel it. As we're feeling it and we're tracing it and we're giving it all this like sort of shape, size, texture, colour, blah, 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 movement, what we're actually doing is, that's the equivalent of leaning over and picking up that inner child and holding it and saying, it's all right, I'm here with you. I'm here with you. I've got you. That's what it's saying. I'm listening. What do you want me to know? Speak to me. I'm listening, right? That's the first step. And then you sit with it, and you sit with it. Now, from this point, if you want, you can speak in your mind to it. I tend not to. I just feel it, and bring love to it without bringing thoughts to it. But if you want to, you can go in and you can sort of feel it and say, it's all right. I'm with you. There you are. Now, once you've got that, you've got the sensation and you're feeling it, the next thing you can do to really deepen this process is you go find the epicenter. Find the epicenter of that sensation that's come up. Where is it coming from? Because it might be that upside down triangle, but it might be a tiny little speck here that is like pulsating out into that shape. Now go in with your awareness. Where is it coming from? Where is it? Go find the epicenter, go in. And as you do, you're going to do this with your breath. Empty your lungs completely. We have a tendency to breathe like this. Not exactly like that, but kind of like that. And what we want to do is we want to let the body take over. So we want to empty the lungs completely whilst feeling this thing in looking for the epicenter. When the lungs are empty completely, what you do is you don't breathe in, you let your body do the breathing in, and it'll be a different kind of breath. So I'm going to give you an example now. Like this. Now what happens when you do that is you'll notice, I'll stand up so you can see a little bit better. So here, notice how the hands come out. Anyone who's like a professional or trained singer, or if anybody has had a stutter, a stammer, and they've I can't remember the name, but there's a breathing technique that they use, might be aware of this thing where you breathe with the intention of your rib cage going opening out, the whole of it, the sides, the back and the front, opening the rib cage. And it's easier to do that with empty lungs and then let the body do it. Now when you do that, what's happening is you're using way more of your lung capacity. And imagine the lungs, and I'm going to go into more detail with this when this starts to get deeper. This is just all the basics right now. Don't get me wrong, these are massively important. These are the foundations, right? The foundation is, you could say, is probably the most important part of a building, because without it, the rest of it doesn't stand. So don't take this to mean this is not important when I say it's not the deep stuff, because it is deep, but we'll go into more stuff later. Okay. Let's not get distracted. So, ribs open up. Imagine the lungs are like a model of the whole self, and the part of you that you've been rejecting, this sensation that's coming up, has a corresponding spot within the lung. And what we want to do is get the breath, the oxygen, to go into the corresponding spot that relates to the sensation that's coming up. That's why we empty the lungs and go We allow them to fill up as much as possible. Now, as we do that, what we're effectively doing is we're saying to that part of us that we're holding already, we're already holding it, we're sort of saying, I love you just as you are, into the ear of little you. We're saying, I love you exactly as you are. The thing that you always needed to hear when you was a kid. And if you want to talk to it and say, I'm here with you, I love you, here, I'm about to give you a breath, I'm about to breathe life into you and show you that I love you. I'm with you, I'm with you. If you want to do that, do that. If you just want to stick with the sensations in the breath, which is so much more easy to manage just in everyday life, then do that. But this is how we relate to our emotions, right? So with the big breath thing, really use that when you're triggered, when there is an active emotional trigger playing out in the moment and you feel it. That's when you want to go deeper. But as a rule, you want to spend your life feeling, not thinking. Thinking fills the bucket. Feeling empties the bucket. It is that simple. And I hope I've put that to you in enough of a way. I might have gone off on a tangent and missed something here, so let me know. You know what I'm like. So I really want to get this point across in a way, and every time I think of a new way to get the point across to you, I might go off on a bit of a tangent, and then I might not always remember to circle back to something I started earlier. So let me know if there's anything incomplete. Empty the bucket. Thinking fills it, feeling empties it. Keep that in mind. Feel it to heal it. The breath. Get the more oxygen we can get into those lungs, the more this thing's going to happen. So what happens over time is that emotional trigger will stop coming up for love. It'll stop coming up for love because it'll already feel loved. You've healed the wound. And from that point forward, all the people and things that used to trigger you will no longer trigger you. And because they're not triggering you anymore, you won't even be aware that they exist in your life. I might even argue that those things become, they do disappear from your life because you're not putting out the energy that is attracting the thing to trigger you so that you can heal it, bearing in mind that we are organisms that self-heal and we're always looking to self-heal. And the only thing stopping us from self-healing is our resistance to the healing process, and the sensations that come up are the healing process, and we resist it, we suppress it. When we stop resisting it, we feel it fully and bring awareness into it, the self-healing takes place. It is that simple. And the breath is the I love you, I accept you. The breath is life. You breathe in life, you breathe in spirit, you breathe in love and acceptance into the thing that you're feeling in that moment. But when you breathe like this, it's not the same as, you know, that inflating. There's a difference. If you want help on that, then reach out. But I am going to do videos on different styles of breathwork, breathing, and pranayama, as they call it in India, to bring awareness to that, to relieve anxiety and depression. But we want permanent fixes. We don't want like just a little short fix. Like, yeah, if you're angry, you can go out and scream and let it all out, but that is not a permanent fix. That is just, you know, like I say, relieving the pressure, but you're still full. What we want to do is heal it fully. So when you get used to feeling this sensation and you're okay with it and you love it, then when that sensation comes up again, you've made peace with it, you're no longer resisting it, therefore it heals. Now, you imagine going through life doing that with every emotional trigger that comes up. Imagine that all your emotional triggers are gone. All of them are gone because you just did this really, really simple thing. So your emotional triggers, you go deep and do it very consciously like that, but throughout your whole life, whenever you just sat waiting or thinking, sat waiting or doing something that doesn't require too much thinking, or if you're, you know, just cooking or whatever, something that's kind of you can just do in, and at the same time feel without it distracting you or affecting you from the thing that you're doing, I guess is the right way to say it. I don't want anyone to have an accident because they're driving and they were feeling and they weren't thinking about what was happening on the road. But I mean, personally, I do feel while driving big time. And before I part ways now, because this is half an hour, it's gone really quickly. I want to tell you one that I did, and it was driving. You know, when you let somebody in and they don't say thanks, that used to trigger the living daylights out of me. So I did it on purpose. On the way home from work and to work every day, I'd just let people out or let people cut in when I'd queued up for ages and they hadn't, and I'd let a gap occur and they'd pull in, right, coming off the motorway. Or the freeway, I think they call it in America, if you're one of my friends in America. And they pull in, and that used to really aggravate me. So what I did was I just did it deliberately time and time again and processed that emotion, and now it has absolutely zero effect on me whatsoever. I don't get any sort of real like road rage type thing. I don't like tailgating, so that's the next thing to work on, because that does still have an emotional trigger when people tailgate. Just a little example, a usable example. When your kids are maybe playing up, if you want to call it that, when they're expressing or they're screaming or whatever, there's a reason we do this automatically. You'll have seen it. People do that when they're mad, don't they? You see them do it. That's the self-healing thing happening. Or when someone lets go of something, they go, and they sigh. It's like, relief. We'll go more into all this again later when we really cover the deep aspects of breathing. I hope I've got this out enough. I hope that gets the point across. I want to always keep these to within around half an hour, and we're looking at 31 minutes now. Trigger happens, feel it, give it a shape, texture, blah, blah, blah. Like really feel it where it is. Find the epicenter. Empty the lungs, breathe into it deeply, right into the epicenter, until that sensation is either just feels okay in your body or it's completely gone. The aim is not to get rid of it. The aim is for it to be okay there. Because then no matter what happens, you never have to try and get rid of anything ever again. You're happy with it being there and you can continue as normal from a place of love, not from a place of an emotional trigger, fear, or whatever, an old program. Right? And then that's when it's an actual trigger. Now, just going through life, just feel everything. When you're looking at something like a sunset or a sunrise, something beautiful, like really feel it, rather than just appreciating it. Oh, that's beautiful. Where does it live in your body? Feel it, feel it, feel it. If you're experiencing a bit of resistance in life, something's happening. Oh, I don't like it when that happens. That always happens. The reason it always happens is because of this thing. Once you relieve yourself of that trigger, the energy changes. That thing stops happening so much. I'm not coming from a place of I'm all healed and I'm like some sort of Christ consciousness guy. Where I am coming from is I used to be triggered in every direction so much, man. My posture's changed a lot. My shoulders were so much higher. My neck was pushed back. I was stooped forward. My posture was just an exact representation of all the resistance I had to life. And now, there'll be people out there that have done no inner work that have way less triggers than me. I'm sure there's plenty of them. We can't compare ourselves to other people. We can only compare ourselves to where we were at, and I am so much further ahead than where I used to be. It's ridiculous. It's like a completely different life internally and externally, and this has been a master key in that process. Cannot stress it enough. Feel, empty the bucket rather than filling it up. Hope this lands for you. All questions, comments, anything, reach out. Happy to answer as much as I can. Sending you so much love and gratitude for being with me. And if you've stayed this distance and you've got something from it, thank you for being the other end of my contribution by receiving it, because my contribution's kind of worthless without someone there to receive it at the other end. So thank you for being at the other end of my life purpose, and the stuff that I'm doing to give meaning to my life. I really appreciate you for that. And so much love, gratitude, take care, and I hope to interact with you guys with your comments. All right, thank you, bye bye.